Turn it up, it's talking Rasslin time. Pond Water and Amy, partners in crime. Dropping facts with laughs and trivia too. Pro wrestling tales coming straight to you. Stories wild and questions quick. Amy and Dave with the perfect kick. Tune in every week, don't miss the ride. Rasslin knowledge served with pride. Talking wrestling, it's a wild ride. Dave and Amy kicking ass on the wild side. Grab a chair and join the spree. It's all about the wrestling fantasy. They rant, they rave, they won't behave. Wrestling fans, come out your cave. It's time to party and misbehave. Talking wrestling, time to go. Ring the bell and start the show. They rant, they rave, they won't behave. Wrestling fans, come out your cave. It's time to party and misbehave. Talking wrestling, time to go. Ring the bell and start the show.
Hello and welcome to Talkin' Wrestling with Pond Water and Amy. I'm Pond Water Dave. Join with me as always is the First Lady of the Arn Anderson Fan Club, Miss Amy Vaughn.
Hello, hello.
Amy, how are you?
I'm good, but we're getting ready to get some storms. Goodness gracious.
I was looking over in the chat and looked like T-Weave said that they're battening down the hatches there too.
It's coming up from Arkansas. Man, we were just, the weather's been wild. Poor Kentucky, eastern central Kentucky.
Yeah.
London and Somerset area. Man, they got like 20 people died in that tornado last week. And they're getting ready to get a bunch of rain. And I mean, I know, like I said, just from our town, 3 or 4 years ago, got taken out by an F4. And it's just, I mean, they had like Facebook groups set up to help find, like we'd find something, nobody claimed it, and you find it in the road or whatever, and it's a blanket, and you're like, I'm trying to get this back to whoever, and it could be from someone 100 miles away. It was just, it's wild. So I don't know. Everybody just keep your prayers going for that area, and hopefully, oh Lord, Terry's got a tornado siren. Just pray everybody stays safe.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, our guest tonight, she's a wrestling historian. She's a wrestling fan. She's an author coming out early next year. Her book, I Am Your Champion, The Life and Death of Wrestler Gino Hernandez will be out. Welcome to the show, Lizzy Flanagan. Hi, Lizzy. How are you tonight?
Yay!
Oh, now my hair's a little bit of a mess, but it's okay. We're rolling with it. I got
all right.
Yeah. Don't even worry.
We're glad you're here with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I told Amy, I said she's going to come on the show, and finally I'm going to have somebody to talk about old wrestling with. It's going to be so great.
What? Wait a minute. What about? No.
Yeah, she likes world class and Gino Hernandez, so she likes the good stuff.
Oh yes.
But Lizzy, you like a little bit of all of it. All of it. Tell us about your wrestling fandom before we get into what made you write a book about Gino Hernandez. I would like to hear your wrestling background.
I mostly get it from my dad, because he was a big wrestling fan growing up, and he would tell me stories about it. He didn't really like WWE, which is ironic because we live in Philly, so he was in the territory, like grew up in the WWF era, but was always looking for stuff from Texas or Florida or Jim Crockett promotions. So then I grew up and I was like familiar, even though I couldn't always watch it. I knew all the names. And then when I was in high school, I started to watch wrestling on my own, but it was New Japan. And then I wanted to show my dad wrestling because I was like, look, like you used to talk to me about this stuff. And like, now look at this guy, like this guy named Kenny Omega. I love this guy. And he was like, if you're going to show me this stuff, I want to show you what I watched when I was your age. So then he showed me like Magnum TA versus Tully Blanchard.
That's a good one to show.
Mm-hmm. And then we did the Von Erichs deep dive, which is when I started finally watching them, Von Erichs and Gino, and the Freebirds, and obviously the whole ensemble cast. Yeah.
When you're saying that your dad's telling you these stories, did he attend the event, or was it tape trading, or what exactly was his experience that he was telling you about?
Yes, so he would watch the syndicated show from WCCW on, I believe, ESPN. And then he would watch Crockett, I think, visited Philly, so he could go to their shows. He told me one about a story about a Halloween Havoc he went to where the cage caught on fire.
Yes.
Yes, he was there. He was in the building for that. And
if I'm not mistaken, I think Muda climbed up the cage and started spitting on it. Spitting the mist on it.
Is that when they had which one was the 3 cages?
The tower. Was it the tower?
Yeah. I don't think, obviously that's not the one that caught on fire, but they do some weird things at Hall. And then they had the electric chair on one time, right? Or is that?
Yeah. Or the electrified.
That may have been the one where they set Abdullah on. They electrocuted Abdullah.
Yes, the Abdullah's the one who got electrocuted.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't think they ever tried that again. Maybe they said, you know what, no. This is not really what we.
Abdullah kicked out.
He's still kicking. I mean, he's still here with us. Yeah. So, he did something right, I guess.
That would have had to been thrilling for your dad. All of a sudden, that Crockett showed up in Philly. We have a listener, Coach Keith Morrison, that was the same way. Mm-hmm. He loved going to WCW in Philadelphia.
That's a great with WC or being in Philadelphia, probably in that area. You did get. Or Pennsylvania, maybe in general, you got WWF, you got ECW eventually, you got WCW, you kind of got a little bit of everything getting to come to your town. So you really did get to see a little bit of this, a little bit of that, get to experience it all. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Nobody comes here in Kentucky. No.
Yeah, but that's definitely spoiled. I mean, but now it's, I guess with the layout it is. We have some indies still running around me. My sister and my boyfriend wrestle for them sometimes. So
I love it. So it's a family love, right?
Oh, yes.
It's a family love. So how long has your sister been wrestling?
She's been a little more than 3 years. She had to take some time off because she tore her meniscus. But
gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, but she's back in the ring now. Her name's Stevie Brooks. She trains at the Monster Factory.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What did you say?
It's a good place to train.
Oh yeah. I actually Tim Hornbaker's book about Buddy Rogers. And I found out that he was a co-founder of the Monster Factory. I was like, what? Like, I didn't know that. I knew that there was a picture of him on the wall. Because I attended the shows. But I thought I was just like, he's a local. Like, he's from Camden, New Jersey. So, like.
Well, we had Bam Bam Bigelow trained there. And I remember when he came to Texas, he wasn't Bam Bam Bigelow. He was Crusher Zarkov or something. I can't remember. It was Crusher. They put some kind of name on the end of him there. But they even talked about on television that he was a product of the Monster Factory.
Really? Was he from Camden too? Was he from Camden, New Jersey? Big Bam Bam Bigelow? He was from New Jersey, I know. Definitely. I'm going to look that up. Sorry.
I could have told you if you wouldn't have asked because I can remember his introduction and it's on the tip of my tongue. Does your sister wrestle all over Pennsylvania?
Yeah, she goes to AXW which is somewhere in the in Pennsylvania. And she's been to New York, Virginia, and West Virginia. Yeah, she's been up and down the coast.
We've had Rise on our show, the promoters of Rise, and their ring announcer a few times. So we like Pennsylvania wrestling.
We do. One of our really good friends, Megan Nelson, she with Rise, and she's out of Pittsburgh though. I put it in the chat. Mount Laurel Township is where he's from, and I don't know if that's.
Yeah, no, I think I played their high school tennis team when I was in high school.
Cool. So I love how your dad's love of wrestling did not. Do you have any more siblings? Is it just you two?
I have 2 more sisters.
Did anybody hear me?
I know.
I'm sorry.
You're freezing up a little bit.
It's probably me. And my internet, we're getting ready to have a big thunderstorm. So, I'll just go with the flow. It's probably me. Blame me. So you have 2 others. You have 4, right? You said there's 4 of y'all total?
Yes. I'm the 3rd in the lineup.
And so your sister wrestles. You write about wrestling. Do the other 2 have anything to do with wrestling? Oh, what, Debbie?
Not really.
Or do they just tease you about it?
Oh, not really? Okay.
No, they respect, but they'll come over if they're like in.
We're losing her.
Oh, we're losing you, Lizzy.
They're still there.
Yeah. We didn't hear you, hon. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. It was my oldest sister was home the same night as AEW Revolution was on. So we watched that together. She was kind of like, okay.
Hey, I get it. I have to drag my sister, even still now, in our late 40s. Mary came down with me to see Dave wrestle. She's always been kind of that partner with me. And she's kind of just gone along with it because I wanted to do it.
She saw me referee.
Yes. So, so I understand that sibling, like, okay, sure, I'll sit here and watch this with you. And not really sounds good. Glad to visit with you. No.
My little brother got me into it, got me back into it. My mom got me into it initially. And then when I grew, and then as a teenager, my brother got me into it. So sometimes your family's the best people to watch it with.
That is very true. That is fun. So,
Lizzy, do you remember the first event that you went to?
The first in-person event was actually a Ring of Honor show.
Forget about Ring of Honor being there too.
Yeah, it was at the 2300. I remember the main event was Dragon Lee and Roosh against the Briscoe brothers. Which in hindsight, I feel so lucky to have seen that. Yeah. For Dragon Lee, because I was watching New Japan and he competed in the Best of Super Juniors. So he I paid for the meet and greet with him and everything. But yeah, it's definitely my dad. I remember was walking around because he had been to the 2300 back in the 90s, and he was like, "This place is so much nicer than it was when I used to go." And he was pointing out all the spots, "Oh, this is where Tommy Dreamer went through that stack of tables." And
well, that's the cool part about venues is that when you go to them, and unfortunately, most of the venues that my best memories are in no longer exist. But you could remember. I just told a story on the show a couple of weeks ago about seeing Giant Gonzalez for the first time. He was still, whatever they called him in Crockett and then WCW. Elegante. I just remember seeing him come out of the tunnel and being his head was just so much higher up. He towered over the crowd.
Yeah.
But I can remember that tunnel at the Tarrant County Convention Center vividly. And it's funny how you'll see a building. Oh, I remember it. There's always something that sticks out. So I bet, especially seeing, your dad going to the 2300 with ECW,
Mm-hmm.
he saw a lot of crazy stuff there.
Yeah. It's also kind of funny. Like, he would show me some of that, not all of it, but enough that I'm like, okay, I'm kind of desensitized. Yeah, but then people on Twitter still like call me soft. I'm like, no, you don't. I'm a wrestling fan from Philadelphia. Like, I cannot. I'm not exactly queasy anymore. Yeah, especially because now I work in a daycare and there's so much snot and blood and blood and poop. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get by that. You can watch anything.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah.
So have you always loved writing? Because I know not even just, I mean, obviously here we'll talk a little bit about your book that's coming out, but you write articles for Fightful and what did I tell you that other one was? Sportcast? Is that right? Sportcaster? Does that sound right?
Yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. So I mean, you have been lucky enough to find how your love of wrestling, and I'm assuming your love of writing, how that can merge. And so tell us about how that happened too.
Yeah, so I've always been into like writing in general, but specifically like in high school, I remember I was such like a literature geek, and like I would read, like, I loved Hemingway and like James Joyce. Those are like my 1 and 2. I have a collection of copies of James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, because I loved that book for some reason in high school. And then I think with love of reading came a love of writing, because studying different styles and everything. I remember in high school I entered a state writing contest for like short stories. I wrote something that, looking back, I'm like, what was I doing? But I won. But it was like inspired by William Faulkner's Sound and the Fury. So yeah. So I've always been into writing, and I was very happy when I started writing about wrestling, and I found my little niche. And then I started writing for a site that doesn't exist anymore. But it's called Near Falls. And they let me, this is a funny story. They gave me a lot of like creative, like, just write whatever you want, we'll post it. And I wrote the first article I ever posted. I was 19 years old when I wrote it. I wrote about how I didn't like FTR's new gimmick in AEW.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I've changed.
No, you didn't kick a hornet's nest at all.
No. Cash Wheeler himself responded.
Oh, okay.
I remember it verbatim. He said, read the first 2 paragraphs, and this is the hottest garbage that's ever been hot garbage. I was like, whoa.
I would just be like, oh my God, Cash Wheeler responded. I wouldn't even care what he said.
I was like, and one of my friends was like, he's just in character. He's being a heel. Don't worry. And I was like, okay. But
hey, he responded. That means people were reading. He read it. That's
yeah. That wasn't like it was online. Like he just caught a thread on Twitter. He actually read the article.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what? Why didn't you like it? Now I got to know. Why didn't you like it? What was your thoughts back in when you're 19? No.
Yeah. I was very like, I didn't have a fully formed appreciation for old school wrestling, I'll say.
Okay.
And I was very like, I thought that the gimmick that they were doing at that point, which they ended up dropping it, or at least changing it up a little bit, that they were talking so much about like, you got to follow the rules of tag team wrestling. And I was like, I think you're pulling the curtain back a little too much, because then you're going to have everyone be like, but he wasn't holding the tag rope. And like, I was like, I don't know. It was just something that was like, you're going to take people out of the story. And I also really loved the Lucha Brothers at this point, and they were getting slack or whatever, a bunch of crap thrown at them, because they like Penta would not tag in and he would go in, because that's the rules in Mexico, is that it's just like tornado rules essentially. So I was seeing people criticizing my favorite guys, and then these other guys.
I was one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I'm a referee, and I watch wrestling
yeah.
through the eyes of a referee, so it drives me crazy.
Yeah, understandably. I mean, I was a defensive teenager, and yeah, yeah, I still have actually the first ever AEW Lucha Bros action figures. Those are the first wrestling figures I ever bought. Before then, I only got like T-shirts, and the Young Bucks Funko Pops, if you count them. Yeah, so Cash did not like what I had to say. I'll try to find. The site doesn't exist anymore, so I can't find the like posted version.
Oh.
Well, I'll look through my drafts and I'll see if I can find. I'll probably cringe like crazy reading it, but.
Now, right off the bat, you mentioned finding New Japan and liking Kenny Omega, so I'm sure that you've seen the trilogy between him and Okada.
Oh yes, yeah.
And then because I know there's no way that you've not seen the trilogy between Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat.
Yes, it's been a few years, but yes, that was one of when my dad was educating me on old school wrestling. That was one of the
very smart
like,
man. Very
readings.
smart man. Yeah, required readings.
Ask you,
I like
so many people try to say that like that's they'll say that Omega Okada is the greatest trilogy, Steamboat Flair's greatest trilogy, and I mean it's all whatever you like, but I'd be kind of curious that if if you're brought in liking Kenny Omega, and Kenny Omega and Okada were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okada's my favorite, one of my favorite wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's top 5 for me. So I guess I want to know, looking at the two, which one do you have a preference on that, or?
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I feel it's so like not apples and oranges, because it is. I usually compare wrestling matches to paintings, because like I think each painting brings out a different emotion, and like each artist has a different intention when they paint. And even the same artist can have different intentions to different paintings, like I think Rick, but like Steamboat and Flair were like their style was so influential for the time that like you can't really look at that today without knowing history and like appreciate it fully, if that makes sense. Because like I was thinking, actually I was listening to an interview with Ricky Steamboat earlier today. He's talking about his match with Randy Savage and how they had memorized like 130 something steps and then did the steps. And then all the near falls like in a row. Like that's something that's kind of common nowadays. But you have to understand for the time that was that was something I was like, what are you doing? Like so yeah, like you have I don't know. I can't ever. Kenny is admittedly
it's not fair to compare the two.
It really isn't.
Yeah, way to go, Pond Water. That's a terrible question for our guest.
Well, I wasn't setting her up. I mean, if I had to be on a desert island and all I could watch is one of those trilogies, I'm going to take Flair and Steamboat.
There's validity to that. Yeah.
I figured it'd be something with David, but okay.
No, I mean, if you had your choice between Omega, Okada, and Flair and Steamboat, but the reason I put those together is because those two are the ones that get thrown out as the greatest trilogies.
Definitely. They don't even do trilogies anymore. Like, really, like we don't even get that anymore, practically.
Not really.
Yeah. I think Hangman and Swerve had a trilogy. I really love their rivalry too. Yeah, even that. But I feel like the story's not finished there.
No, they need to really. I don't like what they did with Swerve. Like, I don't. He had so much more. He still does. I'm not saying that he's done, but I don't know. Like, I just really think they dropped the ball with him losing the belt. I don't know what this whole John Moxley weird. I mean, it's weird, and I'm not enjoying it. I mean, I just don't think they could have probably done all this without the belt. And again, I just think Swerve was such a fantastic champion, and he has so much more that he could bring. And I just am, like I said, but now I'm stuck in this.
Oh, I'm
what are they? What are they called? The Death Rider hell that we're in right now. So I just ready for it to be over, and maybe it will. Don't they have a pay-per-view this weekend? Revolution or
but they're not defending the title. It's doing Anarchy in the Arena.
Did you feel like that maybe Swerve and Hangman took it too far with the blood?
Well, you're asking a Philadelphian.
I know, but I mean,
she's like, not enough blood.
But he was bleeding into his mouth.
That's
the needle spot was definitely out of left field.
Yeah,
especially because I have a weird phobia of needles. Like if I get a shot, I can't look at it. Like,
understand that.
I think as long as they didn't really follow up on it. Like I saw that and I was like, as long as they follow up and like treat that as something that should be treated like ew, like what? Why did you do that? But they just never mentioned it again. So I don't know if they chickened out or has swerved. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't mind it as much as other people did for sure.
The bleeding right into his mouth, it made me extremely uncomfortable. The needle spot was a little bit much. 15 years ago, when I was managing a tag team called the Medics, I had asked. I said, we ought to do like a deal where I jump up with a syringe, and it would have been a gimmicked one. It wouldn't have. I really wouldn't have stabbed him with it. But what I'm saying is, we'll do a syringe, and then they get woozy, and you can put them down because I've knocked them out. And my buddy's like, no, we can't do that. No needles, no needles, no needles. Then I saw needles, and I'm like, yeah, I'm with him now. After seeing it, and I imagine really 15 years ago, it definitely wouldn't have hit. It probably would have killed me before I got out of the arena.
I was going to say, they would have really thought that you were doing something pretty horrendous, and you probably would have got tackled as you're trying to leave the building. Especially in, where is it, Louisiana, where they still believe?
This was in Dallas. I was still there.
No, I'm saying,
Homa.
Where's Homa? That's right.
Yeah, somebody would have pulled out their gun and shot me probably.
To save that person before you even got stabbed. That would have been interesting. Oh, goodness. So what made you, so obviously you're very in touch with current wrestling. What made you want to write this book? Like, let's start talking about the book. Go ahead. I was just going to say, do you have a picture of the book, Dave? Or
I do.
Just for our audience so they could see the name of the book. Now, I have this pre-ordered. I know Dave does too. Cannot wait until this book comes out. It's I'm Your Champion.
I am your champion. That's how he said it.
I am your champion. Sorry. The Life and Death of Wrestler Gino Hernandez. And when I first saw the book, I said, this is going to be great because to me, I know some stuff about Gino Hernandez, but what I know about him is that you could definitely write a huge book from, he doesn't, his not questionable, but, there's always been like rumors about who his dad was and then how he died, what he could have been in the wrestling business, because obviously he passed away very young. So I saw this book. I was very excited. And then I went to Twitter, because I wanted to become your friend on Twitter. And I'm like, she looks like a baby. She's so young. Like, how does she know about Gino Hernandez at all? And so I doubt very seriously you ever got to see him live. Did your dad, by any chance? Because, if he was watching WCCW, and I know they traveled some, but did your dad ever get to see him live? Or
no, I don't think so. I think
no.
He was watching at the time. And I remember he told me about when Mike got toxic shock syndrome. I can never say that. But he watched the news conference live. So he was like watching at the time, but they never came to Philly and he never went to Texas. So yeah.
Just wondered.
I think the mother did go to Philly, but it was in 87 or 88. So it was after Gino had passed.
That crazy. So why did you pick him to be? Is this your first book? I know you've written articles. Okay, this is your first book. Why did you choose him as your subject?
I was drawn to him when my dad was gushing about the Von Erichs and how much he loved them. I was always drawn to the guy with the nice hair, who was all like a fancy little dog. And then finding out about his death, and how kayfabe handled it at the time, it just felt very kind of like appalling to me that they kind of just brushed him off immediately, because he was a bad guy, and also given the circumstances of his death. So I think in a way this book is kind of me wanting to give him some closure to wrestling fans. I want to show that he was a person and not just like this spectacle of is he a side effect of the Von Erich curse and everything. I think people play up the mystery so much that they forget that he was a guy. He was a guy who was wrestling when he was my age. He died when he was my sister is 29, and Gino was 28 when he died. And yeah, I want to humanize him. And this isn't to say I'm romanticizing him, because he definitely was flawed. But I want to kind of give him a proper showing that isn't just and also trying to break through kayfabe, because he lived the gimmick.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What I found fascinating about him is, the first time I saw him in person is he did a run-in at the David Von Erich Memorial. When he ran in, I had to ask the people around me, I said, can y'all tell who that is? Oh, that's Gino Hernandez. Because I couldn't tell. But as the years have gone, I learned that Gino wrestled for the Sheik, and the Sheik must have thought a lot of him, because he put the United States Championship on him in 77, 78. So, I mean, he was just getting started.
Some people speculate that was Paul Bosch.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it was Paul Bosch, because he was booking Gino at that time. So he had that connection. But the Sheik actually went down to Texas and saw Gino and was like, can you bring him up to Detroit? And Paul was like, yes. But
and as you can see, Gino was also tag team partners with the Tully Blanchard.
Yes.
So I, am very interested to see information about that in the book. Like I said, the book is, you have to pre-order it. So just for our fans out there to know that we haven't read the book. We're very anxious to read the book, but it's still pre-order phase. So
I'll put it back up again later in the
program. Yes. Because I think, I loved how, so I can definitely tell, listening to you talk about the reason why you wanted to write the book. You're talking about someone who is very much into literature, how you wanted to humanize, you're looking at the flawed character and you're wanting to humanize them. That's a very much a Bronte and the, Pride and Prejudice. That's a very, very common, I feel like, thread with some of the romantic writers. So I love hearing that. So that makes me just even more excited about the book, because it's just going to be, you're really going to get into the story. And I think sometimes, like you said, that could be forgotten, because it really does. Even like I said, it starts with his birth. There's questions about who the dad is. His mother professed she was a rat. I mean, that's her words, not mine. So I mean, yes, but he could have a lineage. I mean, you of course never know, but he could be connected to someone shocking, I guess, for us, and to die so young, but to have been able to do so much. I think sometimes too, when someone passes away so young like that, because I think we even talked about Bray Wyatt. I'll spit it out. There's just so much more they could have done. You could have seen the way wrestling was going and how they could have really been in the wrestling business, and it's just so tragic. Do you ever? Is there any talk? Because obviously, Gino, like, do you just stop at his death in the book, or do you kind of go into the aftermath and that kind of stuff? Not to give too much away about the book, but I'm just curious.
I definitely I try to wrap things up as well as you can. Which I remember this is sad. But I remember I was going on a date with my boyfriend, and he was like, "Are you okay? Like, you just seem like very quiet." And I was like, "I'm just sad because I'm writing the last part of the book and everything's sad." Because like, obviously Gino dies in 86. What happens to the Von Erichs after that? It's like, oh well, Mike passes away, Chris passes away, Carrie passes away. They go out of business. And then even like I talk about Bruiser Bodie in the book, because he was a funny connection between Gino and the Von Erichs. So I have to bring up like, okay, well, he also passed away, and Chris Adams also died young. Yeah, so it was definitely like, oh my god,
it was crazy. It was crazy because the week before he died, Chris Adams was on cutting a promo on television and told, "I'm gonna kill you." He said, "I'm gonna kill you," and then he died. So people thought Chris Adams killed him because that's how the world class fans were.
Oh goodness!
Yeah,
I bet he had to hide out for a while. Like you said, people would have really thought that something nefarious had happened. That's terrible.
So they had partially done that angle because Chris Adams wanted to take time off to visit family in England.
Yeah.
So he was in England when Gino died. And then he had Scotland Yard show up at his door and say, like, "Can we ask you some questions?" Because he was like, "What happened?"
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Oh, sorry.
Gotti Jr. in the chat says, "What do you think most people misunderstand about wrestling, and how do you address that in the book, if at all?" Thank you.
I like this question. I think my favorite understanding of wrestling comes from Jack Briscoe, actually, who in his autobiography, he described it as a morality play with muscles. And I like that explanation because it's wrestling, I think, at the core is about senses of good and evil. And that's why I think
it's a tale as old as time.
Yes, it is. That's why I think there's people get so emotional about wrestling, because they want to see good win out, whatever their idea of good is. And like that can change between time periods and like cultures. Like a good guy in ECW would be a villain in WCCW. But yeah, I think people get so caught up in talking about like the technicalities and like form and the forbidden star ratings that that they forget that wrestling is mostly about how it makes you feel, like any other kind of art, really, and the story that they're telling, not if they can do it 6:30 senton. Like
Are you able to suspend your disbelief when you're watching sometimes and just get totally immersed in it? Like an example would be when I was at WrestleMania in New Orleans, Charlotte versus Asuka. In my mind, there was no way Asuka was losing.
Mm-hmm.
The streak they had, the way they were doing her, I thought Charlotte's going to lose. I was prepared for it. I was having fun with the crowd. They were yelling for Asuka. I was yelling for Charlotte, and we kept on and kept on. And then when she tapped out and Charlotte won, I freaking came out of my seat and marked out. And that don't happen for me very often anymore. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's that old, that's fake. That's fake. That's fake. But that guy, that was real. That was real right there. And I'm just wondering if writing about it and deep diving into it, if you're able to, do you ever get caught up in it and can suspend your disbelief for a few minutes?
Mm-hmm. That's definitely, I think writing about it hasn't affected how I watch it as much as having a sister who wrestles. because she like will tell me about her matches and like what was going through her mind at certain moments, so that I can't help but think, are they having similar thoughts of like I don't just like getting frustrated with your opponent, or like how they call it in the back and everything. So that is a bit of a hurdle sometimes, but I still like to try to forget about how I don't know, study wrestling.
Right.
And just watch it. I think it happens more often with AEW than WWE. Because I think right now I'm just really dissatisfied with the WWE product. I loved Drew McIntyre and CM Punk's feud, and like their cage match was like one of my favorite matches of that whole year. But like I feel like lately it's just, you watch it and you're like, oh, this is a product, isn't it? Like, and a lot of that is the same for AEW. But that, I'm talking about the Swerve and Hangman rivalry again. Like when they talk to each other, I just feel very like invested in the characters themselves and not the like scripting of it, I guess. But I think they are very, I don't want to call it new wave storytelling, but it's definitely like not I'll say the characters are more nuanced, I guess, compared to like one of my favorite feuds of the 80s is Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff. But like with them, it's just like good American versus evil Russian, and I love that.
Yes,
like that's so fun. But like with Swerve and Hangman, it's like both men are guilty on some counts, but like who's really good and who's really the bad guy? And it's like definitely, if you tried to put that in front of an old school crowd, I think they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" Like, like just wrestle. But I like that too. It's different.
that made me think about what you were just talking about. And Dave and I have talked about this a couple of weeks ago. When you're talking about listening to Hangman and Swerve and them going back and forth, and you're trying to decide really who's the bad guy. They're both, Paul Heyman came out, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when he turned, I guess it was after WrestleMania. I swear time flies.
Oh, yeah.
And he came out and he gave a promo and he's like, oh, you think I'm the bad guy? He's the one who did this to me. And he's the one who did that to me. And it was like, he's got some points, So I feel like you were just talking about with Swerve and Hangman, you're listening to them, you believe what they're saying. Like it seems like it's a real good back and forth. And you're kind of like, well, you did burn his house down, and you did, well, he did, you did, whatever, you did throw a drink in his face, so it's almost like you do get kind of wrapped up in that, like, I don't really know.
That goes all the way back though in the 80s when Chris Adams turned on the Von Erichs, and he gave all of his reasons why.
Yeah,
I didn't disagree with him.
There are some people in the crowd still cheering for Chris Adams after he turned heel. I remember that's something Gary Hart wrote about in his book, and how they tried a lot of different things to get the crowd to actually fully turn on Chris. And they had him like insult specifically the women in the crowd and call them ugly. And that seemed to work because WCCW had a lot of female fans at the time.
Yeah, and they didn't know they were ugly.
Yeah, they didn't like
But
that.
I was there, and I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, all you had to do was let a Von Erich go down the aisle, and you could kiss all of them. You see that on the videos. You're like, my God, they just mouth kiss. You don't even know who that person is.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where you got to shoot your shot. Do what?
I said, y'all don't come after me. I was just having fun.
I'm just teasing, but that's funny to think about that. Like you said, I love how. I mean, obviously, you're a book reader. You've mentioned a couple different books, autobiographies that you read. What's your favorite wrestling biography or autobiography that you've read? Recently, if that helps.
Yeah.
Recently.
I'm just finishing up. Shoot, I'm gonna forget the guy's name. I think it's Dan Murphy, but he wrote a book about Ed Don George. I have like 20 pages left of it. That's very good. Steven Johnson.
Who did he write about? I don't know.
Ed Don George. He's a wrestler from the 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave,
And,
does that ring a bell for you?
Yeah, you're cute, Amy.
But also Steven Johnson's book on Jim Londos was very, very good. It came out December last year. Yeah, because that's obviously a time period that's hard to get a hold of.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Especially like one, because we don't have film really. We have a little bit, but not like compared to 70s, 80s, 90s. Like you can't find nearly as much. And then also, given how wrestling is, it's hard to tell what's true and what is a storyline and what's completely made up for no reason. But Steven Johnson, and there's a book called Ballyhoo, which is about like 1890 to 1930. I forget the author, but that's also very good. It puts a lot of things into context. I've been on like a kick of like 1930s, 1920s wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah, and my sister had friends over, like her Monster Factory friends over yesterday. So of course we talk about wrestling, and they're like, "What have you been watching lately?" And I was like, "Dano O'Mahony versus Dick Shakot," and they're like, what?" It's like black and white, like newsreel footage, and I was like, "This looks crazy," but like, it is. Dano O'Mahony is someone that I'm actually very interested in. Also because Flanagan, my family's Irish, and he's like he's an interesting figure. But maybe that's a project for another day.
Well, you know what though, you're right though. That time period, it is unreal because you do get to read. Number one, like you said, there's not a lot out there about it, But when you do get a little tidbits, they talk about how 100,000 people filled, the baseball arena, like they talk about how many people pay to watch a wrestling event between, Hackenschmidt and, some of these other names. And to me, I think that is just mind blowing to think, 100,000 people went, whatever in St. Louis watched this match. I mean, wrestling is just still so prevalent, even looking back at how many people that had to be. Like, that's crazy. I don't know. But you're right.
Before television.
Yeah.
Yes. Before television. I mean, we're talking about World War II. I mean, there wasn't probably a lot of money going around, but I just think that's amazing that is something. So that's really cool. Are you thinking that might be your next book? Thinking that
there's some names that I've been thinking of, or also I was, of course I can't talk to my boyfriend about projects. If anything I say, he's like, "That's an amazing idea." He's very supportive and sweet.
Oh my God. Keep him.
I was thinking, if not another biography, then maybe a book about the history of wrestling in Philadelphia specifically. Because reading so much about Texas has made me think maybe I should do something closer to home next time.
There you go.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, especially because I think, like, obviously everyone knows about ECW, but wrestling in Philly goes way back to like one of the first major promoters was a guy named Ray Fabiani, who was a guy in the Philadelphia Orchestra, and he got kicked out for like scamming people, which is so Philly. And so wrestling.
It's so wrestling, so carny, carny.
like of course, so like the first major promoter from Philly is a carny. Like, yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah, but then Jim Londos had one of his like breakout matches in Philly. And there's a lot of like, if they weren't from Philly, like Buddy Rogers, they at least passed through. Yeah, so I feel like that would be a fun project.
Yeah, just like you said, everybody, I mean, WCW, ECW, even Eastern Championship Wrestling before that, WWF. I mean, all of them had kind of at least visited or had different things that they did. So that would be a really cool next project. So
Bill Apter would be a great resource for that too.
he was at a convention in Atlantic City, and I was so close to like driving, but I had to babysit that night. But
bring the baby.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Come on, Lizzy, bring the baby.
I want to meet him, and I probably would overwhelm him with questions, and then he'd be like, "Get away from me."
He'd love it. He's tremendous.
Oh no, he loves questions. Oh my!
I got to do a show with Bill Apter for almost a year, and man, I miss it. He was such a good man, and he knows so much.
He was
Matthew
so
Elvis
much.
Presley has a question. I love that you put Elvis in there, Matt. Dave and Amy, how you doing? We're good. Lizzy, question. Excuse me. I recently read The Six Pack, which was a great read. And in your opinion, what makes a great wrestling book, and what are some of the things that can ruin one?
Ooh.
Hold on, wait.
Can I be dumb and say, what's the six pack? I don't understand that question. Recently read The Six Pack. What is that? Is that something?
On the open road in search of WrestleMania. About like pop culture and wrestling. It's fun.
Oh.
I haven't read that one.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So this is probably something that is obvious, but truth makes a good wrestling book, which feels necessary to say because a lot of the wrestling history books have been written in favor of a promotion. Not even WWE. I'm thinking about a book called Fall Guys, which came out in, I think, 1927. And it was written by a guy who worked for a certain New York promoter. So they just completely trashed like all of their rivals.
They slandered it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But since that was the only book at the time, a lot of
this
people.
one?
Yes.
Jim Cornette recommended this book too, I think. I don't know. Ain't that interesting? I wonder.
It's definitely it's a really cool sword.
I'm sorry.
I got the annotated version from Crowbar Press. Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, I think also like I read Bob Backlund's autobiography, and one of the things I really liked about that was he was not afraid to show his personality. And just like I felt like I got to understand him as a person, which helped me understand his wrestling career. I think a lot of people kind of don't realize that like writing an autobiography requires a certain amount of vulnerability. And I think Bob Backlund definitely leaned into that. Whereas if you are afraid of it and kind of readers feeling like they didn't actually read much other than like a textbook, like, you know. Yeah, like Bob Backlund talked about how he wasn't picked up enough as a baby, so he has a slight deformity in his spine. And now whenever I see him, I think about that because you can kind of see it in his posture. Yeah. But it's just like it's one of those things that like it hurts your heart a little bit. And then like I want to like you root for him more like retroactively. Yeah.
Did you find during research, because you talked about number one, the book needs to be truthful. Did you find it hard because of that era and kayfabe being such a thing? It's not so much that it's a lie, but it was just like you said, like they didn't really come out and say he died from a drug. You know, I mean, like it was, you know, and we see that a lot where it's like there's a story that's put out there, and you just think it's real, but it was a kayfabe, and it's like, no, that's not exactly how it happened. We had to say that, or I had to go, you know, I drugged myself to a different hospital because I couldn't be in the same hospital as, you know, whatever. Yeah. So did you find that hard when you were researching this book, just to be like, okay, how do you know what was true and what was not? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, definitely. I will say that the trickier part wasn't so much kayfabe versus shoot. It was conflicts of opinions. Like a lot of the book I talk about Gary Hart and Paul Bosch because they were two very important figures, like father figures in Gino's life. And they had very different opinions on wrestling.
Mhm.
And they did not like each other much.
Yeah.
So reading a story from Paul Bosch and then reading the same story from Gary Hart, you would think that they're talking about two completely different things. So having to kind of marry those, because I like that for me is especially tricky because there's no one they both loved Gino a lot. So there's no one where I'm like, okay, well, they're obviously just trying to slander him, or like they're obviously just like a jealous, like whatever, because like both of their opinions matter so much to Gino's story. So it's hard to kind of find a middle ground between them, and like you want to respect both of them while also telling a story that makes sense. Yeah, it was helped by the fact that I think Gary Hart and Paul Bosch were both good men. So like I didn't think either of them was outright lying at any point. It was just that I think Gary Hart could be a little bit paranoid and vengeful, and I think Paul Bosch could be a little bit petty at times. But like they both really cared about Gino and they both really loved wrestling. Yeah, that was navigating that part of the book, I think, was the hardest. Just because I wanted to tell both of their stories without putting the other one down too much.
Right. And none of them are here anymore. So it's like, it's not like you could go and, ask them like, did you really mean this? Or now that it's been, years later, do you still feel this way or whatever? And so, but you can't ask that question. None of them are here anymore.
Yeah, I did get to talk to Tom Pritchard.
I love Dr. Tom.
Yes, he's great.
Yes.
Yeah, he was very sweet and very helpful. And he sent me some pictures, some never before published pictures that will be in the book.
Ooh.
Yeah. So a very young Gino in Houston, because that's when they worked together.
Dr. Tom's the best. Go, Dr. Tom.
I saw a picture that you posted, or I guess you posted it. I saw it of Kevin, Fritz, and Tully, and Kevin and Tully were kids.
Yeah,
Fritz was down in San Antonio wrestling for Joe, and Kevin was there, and Tully was there, and there's no doubt that's Tully Blanchard. He looked more like, I mean,
I was like, am I crazy? Because I found that was posted from another person I've talked to, Kevin Von Erich Archive on Instagram. They actually work for the Von Erich shop sometimes. Like if they want to sell like 8x10s, he like touches them up. Yeah, but he posted that, and I don't think he really cares much about Tully Blanchard. So he was like, oh, I guess he does look like Tully Blanchard. And I was like, I think that is Tully Blanchard. Especially because they're in San Antonio. You can see in the background that it's like a San Antonio football arena. I was like, oh, that has to be him. Like, yeah, especially because he had the little unibrow. That's how I always tell young Tully. Yeah, it's endearing.
I'm sure that you've seen the Dark Side of the Ring episode about Gino. Did the end of it strike you as like the story they told? The story they told through the whole program is that his mom was trying to put some closure on the whole thing, and it's like you could tell that she didn't want to believe it, that he did it, that he was killed, that he didn't overdose, he was killed. And all of a sudden that guy tells her, I'll assure you that he wasn't murdered. And she's like, okay. And I'm like,
yeah.
Someone that was that convinced, it just didn't seem to me. I'm not a huge fan of Dark Side of the Ring. But that particular end of the episode, I was kind of like, no, what? And I lean on the side thinking he was killed. I don't know.
No, that episode was definitely, it felt like, this is another like literary term, that felt like the Deus Ex Machina trope, where it's like there's so many conflicts and then something comes in there and it's like, whoop, it's solved. Like, like magically. It like I found out later, I watched like the extended version, that there's like 30 minutes of that voicemail that they couldn't play. So, and then I was like, okay, it's probably something more in the parts that they couldn't play that convinced her. But yeah, it came across very odd.
Do you talk about? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna. Also in the extended version, they talked about how there's a point where like, someone like broke into their car, and they're like, "Wow, people don't want us to tell this story." And I was like, "I think a guy just broke into your car." Like, I think that's just something that happens sometimes. Like, I don't know. But also, they were Canadians visiting Texas, so I don't. That's a whole different world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought there's some things I was like, I don't know about that.
Do you address that? Do you address the different opinions of his death and that kind of stuff? Like, do you address that in your book?
Mm-hmm. Cool. No, I talk a lot about the reactions at the time and what people have said since. Yeah.
Mark Maggard says he has a pic that he took of Gino back in 1985 with the Texas belt.
Show us, Mark.
Well, he was our champion.
That's right. And Mark says they said his funeral was bizarre. Do you know?
Yes. I talked to Tom Pritchard about that.
Okay.
He gave one funny detail that he told me was that there was a lot of like joking around, to the point where he was like, "Is this still a funeral?"
Yeah.
One of the guys there joked that Gino would want to be buried face down so that everyone could kiss his ass one more time. Sorry, pardon my French.
Oh, you're fine. We let it fly on here.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. That like, I don't know. I've been to funerals and there's some lighthearted jokes, but like with the accent, I was like crazy. But also,
That's
Gino
what I want
hung
my
out with
funeral to
crazy
be. I
people.
want everybody to laugh and cut up and have a good time. In fact, I want somebody to get my phone and send out a mass text to everybody. Say, "Dang, it sure is dark in here."
Did you guys? This is like an old viral video, but it was an Irishman who passed away and played at his and they were burying the coffin. Had them play an audio of like knocking, saying like, "Help, let me out!"
Yeah, I've seen that.
I would have had a stroke, probably.
Yeah.
If that would have been.
Yeah.
Hopefully, though, that person was a jokester. Could you imagine if, like, someone that's never, that just was just kind of really just sweet, and that'd be like Stephanie doing that, Dave, at her funeral, or like having that going on, having her knocking on it.
Wrestlers are a different bunch. I can totally see.
That's true.
Because they spend all this time on the road, so what are they going to talk about?
Yeah.
And I don't believe I've ever heard anybody say a bad word about him. Wrestlers that I've talked to about Gino, nobody has ever said.
No.
I mean, they loved him. He was.
The only guy I found that really said like a thing about Gino that I was like, ew. And obviously I accept criticism of him. I don't want people to think that this is a fluff piece. But it was Brutus the Barber Beefcake asked about Gino's death, said it's karma. And I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I brought that up just because it was such a different opinion from what Kevin Von Erich also had said a little bit harsh, but like I think it was mixed with kayfabe. So you can't really, like he said on it's a Texan talk show. It was filmed like a few weeks after Gino died. And he said that I hope everyone learned a lesson about that kind of lifestyle. Which came across as very harsh to me when I saw that for the first time. But like, I don't know. You have to keep in mind what the Von Erich wanted their
back
image.
then. It would have been kayfabe.
Oh yeah. I don't know if if Kevin has been asked about Gino recently, besides like Dark Side of the Ring. I love Kevin, but he also seems to have differing stories depending on when you ask him something.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I remember, like I don't talk about it much because it happened after Gino died, but Carrie Von Erich's motorcycle accident. Kevin tells the story like Kerry lost his foot in the accident itself, but other accounts and also photos show that he still had the foot after the accident. And so it's just something that's like
when you think about that, though, him losing his foot is the ultimate kayfabe.
Yeah.
If you can, I mean, can you think of anything else in wrestling that has ever been kayfabed as well as his foot?
No, but maybe Lance Von Erich being their cousin. But yeah, I don't. Part of me wishes Kerry like obviously you want to respect his privacy, but I feel like if he had just come out and said like I've been wrestling with a prosthetic, people would have been like, oh my god, like that's incredible.
Oh,
and like
the WWE machine behind him, it would have been the inspirational story.
Yes. But I know Kevin always talked about how Kerry felt like a very deep shame about losing his foot. I think he also struggled with a lot of body image issues just in regard to like his general build. So I can't imagine what losing a limb does to that if you already struggle with that.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't think Kerry was interested in being inspirational. You know, like you said, I mean, that could have been a very inspirational thing, but
I felt less than. That's just how they were raised.
Definitely, like you said, he was definitely not able to see that aspect of it. It would have been too much for him, which is sad. You know, I mean, it's sad. We watched what was it called? The Demon. What was that?
Hollywood Demons.
Hollywood Demons. And that we really enjoyed that episode. We talked about it on a show, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago.
Runs together,
and it really does. I know. I keep saying that. A couple of weeks ago. But it was really interesting because we had seen the Iron Claw. Dave lived the WCCW life. You know, he was in the Sportatorium. So I lived through videos and that kind of stuff. But you just wish that I don't know. You just wish that they saw themselves. I don't want to say better. I don't mean it like that, but I think they like you said, less than, and I think they're too hard on themselves mentally.
Oh yeah,
and then is what I'm trying to say. So, but I think that was a good Hollywood Demons. I thought that was good, and we had Kevin talking, we had the daughters talking, so it was nice. Sorry, that was just a segue. Sorry.
I think the Iron Claw helped that family open up. I think it helped Kevin open up because the girls wanted to talk because they wanted to poke holes in it because their daddy wasn't that way. I think it's made Kevin talk about things he didn't want to talk about, but he had to set the record straight.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then you have his boys are in wrestling. Lacey was in wrestling. There was a thing. People called it the Von Erich curse. I mean, that was a thing that people would talk about. And I guess, like you said, with the movie coming out and different things like that, and I think the time is different. More people, you can get that communication out. Like you said, he can go on a podcast and, 100 million people can hear it, or, if need be, and get that information out and tell his story and tell what he was going through. I pray that he's received therapy because I could not imagine having 5 brothers and they're all gone and as young, so I hope that that's also been something that's helped that, made him want to talk about it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I really admire Kevin. Like, he has this like absolute undying like optimism that like he talks about grief and he says like grief never gets easier, but you carry on because that's what we have to do. And like he'll say that like he's really grateful for the good times that he had, and he thinks that like it was worth it, like to go through all the grief and the loss, because they had fun while they could. And it's like it's just he seems so like wise, but in the simplicity of how he talks, if that makes sense.
And his faith isn't shaken. I mean, you would think that would have tested his faith to the limit, but it seems like that they've doubled down on their faith. And I think when Kevin says he'll see his brothers again, he truly believes that.
Yeah.
It's probably what got him through it. Yeah.
His family got him through it. His wife and kids.
what I'm saying, his faith got him through it.
That too, but I'm saying that I mean, he never wanted to travel because he liked being around his wife and kids.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Hearing Ross and Marshall talk about how they got into wrestling is funny because Kevin initially did not like the idea at all.
Couldn't blame him.
Yeah, I really want my kids to wrestle.
It hadn't worked out well for the rest of them.
No kidding. And you knew that would just come back up, and would they want to do some kind of story about it? I mean, we have seen some really horrific stories, I think, as talking about people's siblings who have passed away and different things like that. So I mean, I could totally see
I think Ross and Marshall have been handled pretty well everywhere they've gone.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wish we saw more of them. That's my only complaint. Is I feel like they're Ring of Honor trios champions, but I feel like it's like, well, why can't they also be on Dynamite or at least why can't
they be on Ring of Honor?
Yeah, literally. I know. I'm part of Honor Club. I pay that $10 a month, and I only see them maybe once or twice. I don't know.
They're great guys. I got to referee for them in 2022 against the Briscoe brothers.
That's so fun.
And
I immediately tried several different avenues to get in touch with the Von Erichs about the Gino book because I felt obviously, but I don't know, it didn't work. But also, then I would listen to their podcast and they'd be like, "I never touched my phone." It's like, okay, so there's the problem.
I believe it because I can't get home.
Yeah, yeah. They've talked enough about Gino that I think I get what they would say, if that makes sense. Yeah, I also
circle back
to Nicola Roberts, Baby Doll.
I love her too.
I know she's great.
She really is.
My boyfriend also met her at a fan convention in Philly a few weeks ago.
Cool.
I know, he introduced himself by saying "Oh, I'm Lizzy Flanagan's boyfriend," and I was like, that's so funny to me. That's how yeah.
Your boyfriend, the wrestler.
Yes,
introduced himself as Lizzy Flanagan's boyfriend.
His name is Brian Murphy. He's on Instagram mostly.
Oh, your boyfriend's a wrestler too?
Yes.
I knew you said your sister, right? Your sister has a boyfriend who's a wrestler.
Boyfriend.
Oh, no,
okay.
No, it's my boyfriend.
I'm sorry. I put it together. I'm sorry. I thought you said your sister and her boyfriend. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Oh, okay.
Pay attention to the guests, Amy. It makes for a better show.
I do. Sometimes I do have a little ADHD. I guess I just in my brain it just merged it. Sorry.
Don't make excuses, Amy. It just shows weakness. I love messing with her, Lizzy, if you can't tell.
Oh, Lord.
Hey, I want to circle back because you mentioned Bob Backlund, and I noticed that you're a fan of Bob Backlund. And tell me, what did you think about his style? I mean, because when I first saw Bob Backlund, it was the golly gee whiz, howdy doody, all-American boy. He was so different. He was a WWF champion in the land of giants. It seemed like everybody was. It was just he was just different, and I took to him immediately. And when I met him, and he told me that he spent time in Amarillo with the Funks, that blew me away. That he wrestled that style.
Yeah, no, he was definitely it's interesting because he was WWF champion, but kind of raised in the territory system of the NWA. And I think that worked to his advantage because then when they had Harley Race come over for the title unification match where the titles were never unified, and he could work with a lot of different people, and with Inoki in New Japan, he could work with that style too because he just had such a range. I love All American Boy Bob Backlund. I like Mr. Backlund too, but what made me a fan was that howdy doody, G-Wiz, because I love an unironic good guy, and I always have. I remember when when Marvel movies were becoming a big thing. I loved comic books as a kid. I loved Captain America and Steve Rogers, and I loved them because he was a good guy who just wanted to do good because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And like I feel like that's such something. I'm from Philly, cynicism capital of the world. And I love when a guy is just a good guy. Like I feel like it's so hard to pull off in wrestling for some reason. Because everyone wants to look cool more than they want to look morally good, if that makes sense. But I just love, I think Bob Backlund is just so refreshing that like he cuts promos. It's like, I don't like how you're treating people here, so I'm going to stand up for New York and the Northeast, and I want to kick you out. Like, you know, and it's just like, good. Like, wow, he's putting himself in danger to stand up for a principle. What a novel concept. Like, you know.
Have you seen his match with Harley Race on the Hidden Gem section?
Yes, I love that.
I tell everybody that if you want to learn, I mean, it's the epitome of work, because they do a headlock spot for well over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And you believe that Bob Backlund is cranking on Harley Race's head so strong that he's going to pop it, and Harley's selling it like like his head's fixing to pop off. And it's just something as simple as a headlock, that they're telling a story of a headlock. And it just, to me, that if you can work a headlock and the person sells the headlock, you don't have to do a 450 splash to the floor.
No.
He had that crowd in the palm of their hands. He was bringing them up and he was bringing them down, and it was just incredible.
I had like a random like eureka moment watching. This is a while ago. I was watching Bruno Sammartino, who's another favorite of mine, against superstar Billy Graham, and they're doing like the test of strength spot, and it got to the point where Bruno's shoulders were on the mat, and he was pushing up, and he would get one shoulder up, and I was just like, oh my god, like that one shoulder, if it touched the mat for one more second, that's like 4 years as champion gone.
Right.
Like, you know, like I was just like, what a monumentous, like so much is right there in that one minute little pickup of the shoulder. And like, I don't think a lot of wrestlers and wrestling fans today, I sound so pompous, but like, I don't think they understand that you can make little things matter so much. Like, you don't need pyro or like the flips of like, you can do those, but don't forget why you're doing it. It's it's
100%.
Oh, I get so frustrated. Even at WrestleMania, when Jey Uso beat Gunther, I'm like, he should have beat him. He gave him 3 frog splashes. He should have pinned him. But then you put him in a hold that you don't normally do, and he taps immediately, which he shouldn't. I mean, you think he would have held on for a little bit before he tapped. And
I was passed out, you know, for the title.
I was just so frustrated by that whole finish.
Yeah, I love Gunther. I've loved him since he was Walter back in the day.
Yes.
And I was so upset. I knew it was coming, and I was trying to like emotionally prep myself that like he's gonna lose the title and it's gonna be bad. But like, I was having him tap out. I was like, oh my god.
Awesome. Oh, I got mad.
That
was not the way to do it. And
I like Jay. I think some people really hate Jey Uso, and I think that's excessive. I don't like how he's been booked, but like, he's a fun, like, he should have been Intercontinental champ. Like, I feel like that's a good spot for him.
I don't think everybody that's in a program with the World Heavyweight Champion should win the World Heavyweight Championship.
That too, yeah.
I come from an era where Flair came to town and made that was the formula. Your baby face, you had a great heel that would come to town and shine up your baby face and go on. Brad Armstrong had tremendous matches with Ric Flair. He did it all around the loop. Billy Jack Haynes, he had tremendous matches with him.
Billy Jack.
But I was like that, and I thought, but Jay is champion. I admit the belt looks good on him.
And he's selling merch.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I'm with you all. You know, I did not like. Again, if you watched our show from a couple of weeks ago, no.
I have an affinity for wrestlers that are believable. So, you know, Gunther's believable. Braun Breaker's believable. When you have when you have wrestlers that are believable, I tend to get behind that. Like when he that spear, I mean, he's made the spear something that nobody else has ever made it, Goldberg included. And I loved Goldberg. I'm just saying, all of a sudden, the spear is to the next level. He's found a way to deliver the spear where, like, I know how the sausage is made. I don't know how he's spearing them without hurting them like that. So it's just crazy to me. And I mean, I'll get behind a wrestler that's believable all day long.
Yeah, no, heel or face. It's that you want to just believe what they're saying.
Oh yeah.
I think Roddy Piper is someone that like you believe what he's saying, even if he's going insane. You believe that he is truly insane.
And my first exposure to him was when he was a commentator on Georgia Championship Wrestling with Gordon Soley.
That's where you met Gino.
And the way that my first introduction to him was getting mad that Gordon was getting picked on and him defending Gordon. But Piper always got on my nerves. Always. Really? Oh yeah.
But
he was supposed to. He was supposed to.
His job.
I only got Piper as like studying someone who's like recognized as an all-time great. So I never got to experience hating him. I only got to get the admiration after the fact.
Well, thank you for posting that clip of the contract signing, because that contract signing was different than anything we see today.
I love that vibe. I love it. It's so like people compare the territories to like mom and pop shops, which I think is a little bit like they did have like a lot of money like in their machines. But it's just so like it just feels so authentic. And like Ricky Steamboat is so likable in that clip. And just like the little joke he makes when he shows up with the big bag, he's like, "I'm not bringing you my laundry again." It's just like, what a sweet and charming man. I love this guy.
He just, I honestly thought where we were going was that he called Rodney twice.
Yeah.
And I thought Piper was going to snap on him. But he was just, Sandy Scott was just like, hey, sign a contract or I'm going to take the belt away from you. We're going to strip you right here. And then he gave you the signed contract. He goes, "All right, thanks. Now you can go." It was crazy.
When Roddy signs it, he goes PIPER. It's like, okay. And then he breaks the pen. Those the other like Ricky goes to
sign. He went pop.
He like slams it on the table and it breaks. Even that like little slip up, I feel like it just makes it feel so much more real. Whereas like today, if something like that happened, one, you couldn't have any improvised lines without people being like, "He shot on him."
Yeah.
And then the pen would be like, "Embarrassing botch." Oh my gosh. It's like yeah.
When did wrestlers start getting upset about promos?
I don't know.
And the fans are like, there's a line now. Now, these are the same fans that thought it was okay for Swerve to bleed and drink Hangman's blood.
Oh.
That wasn't too much, but don't talk about Charlotte being divorced 3 times.
Yeah.
Come on, y'all.
The only thing that I can think of is that like if the wrestlers are backstage and Charlotte is explicitly is like, "Please don't talk about my divorces in this promo," and then Tiffany is like, "I'm going to talk about your divorces," like that. I'm like, okay, well that's shooting on someone, but like,
but once you've gone on Sherry Shepherd and made a whole thing about it, it seems like, once it became public and you're on the Sherry Shepherd show, everything's fair game.
True. I forgot about that. Yeah. Are you guys CM Punk fans? Okay.
I am.
He's all right with me after he whooped the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
And Jungle Boy.
Oh no, my Young Bucks Funko Pops are right there.
I know.
They're autographed. I love Matt and Nick, but they can be divas sometimes. And I accept that they are flawed people.
The thing that turned me against them before I even knew who they were, I was on the road and we stayed in this hotel and I turned on and Ring of Honor was on. and they're having a match, and they put a clicker on the bottom of the screen for super kick party.
Oh,
After the 24th super kick, I was just pissed. I'm like, Chris Adams only needed one. Shawn Michaels only needed one. What are we doing? 24 super kicks?
I will. Okay, a lukewarm defense is that I think there are, at that time when they're in ROH and New Japan, their ROH matches are definitely like crowd pleasers, and then New Japan is like, okay, now here's a good match. Like, you know what I mean?
Can I just say, Lizzy had the best line. I am going to use that. I have accepted they are flawed individuals. Like, I think that is, I mean, talk about, I'm sad I didn't come up with that. That is a great line. I want to use that at home. I want to use it on the show. I am okay. I have come to the conclusion that they are flawed individuals. Okay. Sorry.
I love their wrestling. I just,
I love that. That was a great line.
Thank you.
It was
even like Kenny is like someone who I love his vision of wrestling. Then sometimes I'm like, oh, you're kind of a dweeb, aren't you? Like,
yeah. Yes. Oh, yes.
I came around on Kenny when he was AEW champion.
I love that run
because I truly believed that without Okada, I felt like without Okada, Omega, I didn't have a high opinion of Omega. I thought without Okada, I thought Okada was what was making him great.
Mm-hmm.
Then he was the AEW champion, and the way he was AEW champion, I became a fan of Kenny Omega.
It was very old school.
I realized that there was more to him than what I saw in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And what got me into Kenny was the Golden Lovers story. And you guys probably, it's not old school at all, but on Being the Elite, they had the Bullet Club Civil War arc, and I loved that story so much. Cody Rhodes was a big part of it, but he was like the heel at the center of it all. Which is funny now because he's like the super baby face. But like I loved that kind of style of storytelling through like skits, and then when you watch the matches you can see some payoff from like the lines that they're saying to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely a polarizing thing when I bring it up because it's one of those points in time that wrestling fans either love or hate, and I understand both sides, but I really enjoyed it.
Do you think it's a miscue by AEW, either Tony Khan or the Young Bucks, that Being the Elite wasn't put into the main product? Maybe show the episodes on AEW, make what was going on Being the Elite part of their canon, because they alluded to some of that stuff, but if you didn't watch it, I mean, why allude to something that nobody's watching? If it was, I think it was a missed opportunity, and maybe the Young Bucks said, no, absolutely not. That's ours, and it's not going on here. Or maybe Tony Khan said, no, that's y'all's, and I don't want it on here. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just felt like the product would have benefited from it, is what I'm trying to say. What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think in New Japan, they struck a good balance where like you could just watch the matches and get the story, but like there's kind of like a B plot almost where like Cody was trying to get the Bucks to turn on each other. And we don't see that in the matches, but if you wanted to go deeper and see that, you could. Like, I don't know. It's almost like Marvel movies and then the extra TV shows they put out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the full story with just the movies, but if you want something else, like, you
gotta watch the Scarlet.
It was like reading comic books. They do the annuals, and they would have like an event that involved every comic book in the DC universe. Well, if you read them all, you got all the sub stories, but you could just read the monthly issues of whatever they were doing, Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever, and you could get that by just reading the story. But if you read everybody's story arcs and how that story affected them, you got so much more out of it. Plus, y'all spent a lot more money.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they made more money.
Oh, tell me. I used to collect comic books.
I have a solid Aquaman collection under my desk right now. I love Aquaman.
Is that like Jason Momoa Aquaman
no,
that you love?
I actually
Oh,
don't.
darn.
Actually,
No, just kidding. You don't like him as Aquaman?
Is it Arthur with the hook?
I have some of that. Some of that Peter David run, yes.
Yeah.
But no, I don't.
Peter David run was good.
Yeah, it's definitely like a really interesting take on the character. I like the world building in it. I don't want to get on my Aquaman soapbox, but like he is like my favorite comic book character. Oh, like right here, I have a little Mara keychain.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like Aquaman. I feel like he catches a lot of grief.
He does.
He used to. I mean, Jason Momoa made him cool, but I thought
But
he was cool. I thought he was cool in the comic books myself.
Yeah, I like Alex Ross's take on Aquaman. How like he really emphasized that the ability to talk telepathically with every creature in the ocean at once is actually a very powerful thing. Like
heck
I
yeah.
don't think, yeah, like he what the one I almost called it a spot. The one scene where it's like the fish like make a giant X in the ocean to show where Aquaman is being held captive. Like that's a cool thing. And like everyone else is just like he talks to fish, but like it's more than that.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's another episode. We could talk about Aquaman.
You ever read The Question?
No, he's one of the characters that's always been on the list of like I should read this.
The Vic Sage version of the character, not the Renee Montoya version.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the first 50, 52, 54 comic book run on that. That was some good reading. And it was I think that may have been one of the first series of comic books that was really catered to older people buying comic books because it wasn't for kids.
Yeah. I read the I mentioned being a Captain America fan. I remember I had a Kindle when I was in like elementary and middle school because my mom got tired of buying books for me. And I remember I would buy I wouldn't buy it because I didn't have money at this point. I would ask my mom to buy the 99-cent packs of like 40s and 50s comics, and I read all of those. And I'm so mad that they're all digital because then my Kindle broke and I don't have it anymore.
Oh
no, but yeah, that's what I was raised on, and also Batman and Robin, but only for Robin, because I've grown on Batman.
Robin getting killed in the late 80s, the Jason Todd version, is what got me into comic books because I saw something on the news that you could call a 1-900 number and vote whether or not he lived or died.
Really?
And then I found out about it, and I went to the comic book store and I bought a Death in the Family in a trade paperback. And I was like, man, these are not like, but I always liked the Dick Grayson Robin, so I would naturally like Nightwing and but I used to collect them. But I'm gonna tell you, in more recent years, Batman number 57 is the most badass Batman comic book I've read because he had because KGB's tried to kill Dick Grayson.
Yes.
And he was begging for his life. The KGB said, if you get me some help, because Batman crippled him. And he said, if you get me some help, I'll tell you who hired me to kill your son. And Batman said, get your own help. I'll find out I'm the greatest detective or something like that. It was just chilling and left him in the snow to die. Batman 57 is a great comic book.
I like Ron V's take on it. I don't know if it's drama Ram, but he did like the Phantom of the Opera inspired story in Detective Comics, and that was very cool. But also I love Phantom of the Opera because I'm also a theater geek, but but specifically Phantom because I studied French in school, and I was able to take a trip to Paris, and I saw the actual opera house. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, this is the coolest.
It's one of my favorite musicals. I've seen it multiple times.
I love it so much. This is my fantasy booking. I want a wrestler to do a Phantom inspired like wrestling storyline, but like not just like he wears the mask, like actually by the musical. Yeah, where you could have like you could have someone training a younger wrestler in a mask and he doesn't know it, and then like later it's like I don't know. I feel like it would be cool. But yeah, I don't know if anyone would agree. I think people would watch it and be like, "This angle sucks."
No, I mean you could have gone that way with the whole GTV episode, angle years ago.
Oh,
could have been the Phantom showing what was going on behind the scenes.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought of when she said that. A missed opportunity with GTV.
In my perfect world where Tony Khan lets me book for some reason, that's how I reintroduced Bryan Danielson. Is that he wears when he was wrestling under the mask and everyone was like, that's obviously Bryan Danielson, but they never revealed it. But he does something like that and starts training with Yuta again. And Yuta's like, it can't be Bryan Danielson because I killed that guy. Like, you
should definitely write all that down and send it to Tony Khan.
Dear Tony.
I got an idea.
The Philly residency. I'm gonna lose so much money. I'm gonna buy every show. Yeah, because how could you not? Ever since they started, like in 2019, I was like, they got to run a 2300 show, and they finally are.
I was shocked that it took them that long. Right? I just assumed they already had.
I assumed it was something political, maybe, because I know WWE tries to block them out of some venues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they figured it out. Yeah, my sister's wrestled in the 2300 though, so yeah, and she did it. Probably not before anyone else in AEW, but she did it before AEW could.
Maybe someday I can referee there before I'm done.
Yeah, you should definitely.
Yeah, and then you can go take a picture with the ECW mural that's in the men's bathroom for some reason.
I've taken pictures with the ECW sign that used to hang on the wall.
Oh yeah.
My friend owns my friend owns it.
Nice. That's cool.
I want to see a picture of you at the one in the bathroom stall.
I bet you do.
I just, Lord.
It's gonna be my next trading card. Well, Lizzy, we thank you for all this time that you gave us tonight, and I want to have you back right before the book release.
Yes.
And we'll really deep dive more on the book. I just didn't, when you behind the curtain, she reached out and said, the book's not coming out till next year. Can we postpone? I said, well, I was really looking forward to talking wrestling with you.
Mm-hmm. No, because I love talking wrestling.
That's what we do here.
This is going to sound pretentious too, but I love talking old school wrestling because people, unfortunately, I was born in the wrong generation. Like I try to talk. Me
too.
Yeah, I try to talk about like Magnum TA, and they're just like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "No, you have to."
I'll give you my biggest Magnum TA memory. I was at the Crockett Cup in '86, and Magnum TA and Ronnie Garvin wrestled Giant Baba and Tiger Mask.
Ooh!
And Tiger Mask did a flying body press. Magnum catches him and turns it into a belly to belly.
I love that.
That was the memory of the Crockett Cup for me there.
I love Magnum's belly to belly. I feel like that's another move that people take for granted now. I know it was Bailey's.
He turned it into a legit finisher.
Yeah. Same with I was talking about the Irish whip and how that used to be a finisher, but now it's just like a transitional move. It's completely changed. But yeah. So I'm gonna keep branding.
That's okay. Everybody go to McFarlandBooks.com/product/I-am-your-champion/ or you can scan this QR code here and pre-order her book. Let McFarland Books know that this is content that you want, and then let's get her a nice advance on the next one.
Heck yeah.
That's how these companies know that this is content we want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long way off, but do it. Support her, and this is going to be a good book. I can't wait to read it.
Me neither.
My friend Lance Peterson said that you talked to him a lot about it too.
Mm-hmm. He was one of the first. Yeah.
And we all know Lance is a world-class historian. He's forgot more about it than I ever knew, and I was there longer than him.
Lance actually drew a layout of Dallas for me because I was like, I've never been to Dallas, and he was like, it looks like this is where Gino's apartment was, and this is like,
oh yeah, he knows all that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and he's so great. He wants to tell, like he's awesome about sharing that knowledge and stuff. Like I like Lance. He's very nice.
Yeah.
Next time we have you on, we'll get Lance to sit in.
Yeah. Well, I won't even get a question in. But that's okay.
But Lizzy, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Well, and I look forward to having you back again, closer to the book.
Yes,
for sure.
I want you to autograph my book when it comes.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you do that? Yes, we'll have to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna need mine too.
Yes, of course.
I get jealous of Amy's
I
signing
would
mine.
say always copying me. Jeez.
I am. You got good ideas.
I do. That is very true. I do.
All right, Lizzy Flanagan, everybody. Thank you so much, Lizzy.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
I want this book now. I want to read it. Don't you?
Oh yeah.
I'm so excited about it. I think it's gonna be so cool. I can't
I
wait.
can't even walk in my man cave and see my Texas belt without thinking about Gino with that Texas belt. Because everybody thinks that David Von Erichs is synonymous with that Texas belt. David was dead before that belt came out. Gino was the first one that held that one.
Well, why would people think that he's synonymous with it?
Because he's a Texas heavyweight champion. He just never held that version.
Oh, okay. I understand now.
I want to thank everybody that's rolling with us in the chat tonight. Coach Keith, Willie Buck, Darren Staley, Matthew.
Do not thank Darren Staley. Did you see what he said? He was the new first lady of the Arn Anderson fan club.
Steel cage match between you're gonna get banned. Darren said something on Double Drop Kick the other night. Me and Amy were fortunate enough to be guests on the Double Drop Kick podcast Saturday night. Had a great time with them boys over there. They do a great job over there. We had so much fun with them, and we want to do it again. We had so much fun, and we could have gone 2 more hours. Because we have a tendency to go long anyway. Matt Presley's with us tonight. Amy Vaughn's in the chat. Look at you, double. Tim Robinson. I was wondering if Tim had abandoned us. Bad Money Slim. Bad Money Slim is here. Mark Maggard. They do a great job over there on
I could see
the globe. Painting the globe.
Painting the globe. Yes.
I had a brain fart. I'm taking pain medicines. I mean,
that's true.
I've got an infection in my jaw. I had my wisdom tooth out over 2 weeks ago. I'm still numb right here. Now I've got an infection in my jaw. I'm taking antibiotics.
You can see where it's swollen. I can see where it's swollen.
I'm taking Percocet. I was taking Norco, and the other night I was hurting so bad that I took 2 of them. And my wife goes, "Can you take 2 of them?" And I said, "Well, I did take 2 of them." She goes, "But can you take 2 of them?" I said, "I think Kurt Angle said he took 40 of them." She goes, "Well, you're not Kurt Angle." And I said, "It's true." But I got home Friday. It's my wife's birthday this weekend. She had her birthday Sunday. Happy birthday to Tempe, producer of this show. And Friday I got home and I was trying to buy her a camera for her birthday because she loves taking pictures of sporting events. And I wanted to upgrade her equipment to get her some really, really decent. I mean, we got her to the professional level of photography now. I hope, because I know I got the zoom lens right, but I was so messed up. There, look at Lance Peterson in the chat. There he is.
Yeah.
Holla.
That's Ola.
It was holla when I said it. Me and Lance worked in the hood. It was holla.
It may have been Ola. That's hysterical.
Oh, Big Boy Belts is here.
Yeah, we've had a lot of great guests. A lot of great people
Coach
in the chat. Terry Weaver was there. Coach Rosie.
Terry Weaver.
Coach Keith. Willie
Richard
Buck.
Ward. Ben Jones from Australia. The Double Drop Pick Podcast. Mendoza Craft Belts. Gotti Jr. asked a good question during there. Anyway, back to my story. I was two pain pills in here trying to, and I would type and and then I'd be up. But what I'm telling you is I'm hoping that when we get it, oh, and it's coming FedEx.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Oh, because I put on the directions when I got a notification that FedEx was delivering. I went in on the app and I put in there and I said, please ask the driver not to throw my shit out the window this time.
Yes.
And that's how I said it. Please ask the driver not to throw my shit out the window this time.
Ooh, we're going to watch that Ring camera video too when it comes out.
Yeah, if he throws that camera out the window, it's going to be Exhibit A is what it's going to be. But anyway, I'm hoping it's going to be a camera because I was so messed up on those pain pills Friday when I was trying to order this thing. She's liable to get a cannon from the battlefield.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm hoping that she gets a Canon camera.
I can't wait to see them throw that cannon out the window. That'd be good.
I've been hurting pretty bad. I went back and it's an infection, and we're taking lots of antibiotics, but that Norco wasn't doing the job, and he gave me some Percocet, and I slept like a baby last night.
Good, because I can only imagine that has to hurt, and I hate that for you.
And I don't feel real good. I mean, I'm kind of a pussy. I don't like pain. It hurts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And mouth pain, that's like a headache. Like that's different, That's
Stephanie's son came over and cooked her dinner. She cooked us dinner for her birthday. He made steak and baked potatoes, and I was able to eat the baked potato because it was so soft. But I had to back off the steak just because I couldn't chew. It was just
poor thing. I hate that for you.
Tim Robinson, Dave, I'm about to get my big gold soon.
Ooh, really?
I told you it's been a journey on this show. It's been a journey on this show that watching him get his belt collection together.
That is so cool. Who does his belts, Dave?
Big Time Belts, Facebook.com. Go to Big Time Belts, join the group. Muhammad Zubair's making belt dreams come true. There's the forever Ring of Honor Women's Champion, Athena, at the Ribera Steakhouse in Tokyo, Japan, wearing her Ring of Honor belt, and she's got her spinner belt. And Big Time Belts hooked her up on that. The Ohio Hatchet Wrestling Champion is duty bopping his ass to the ring in Big Time Belts. The Undisputed Pizza Champion, Jason, is doing his thing from Big Time Belts. A Bayou Independent Southern Championship replica as a gift. My friend Chuck got one for his nephew. Zubair did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
We think about the WWF Ladies Champion. You're thinking, well, that's not a belt that he should be able to make, is it? Well, when the WWF Ladies Champion, Leilani Kyle, wants a replica of her belt, who are you going to call? Big Time Belts.
Exactly.
He sponsored the Ram Network's fantasy football belt that Timmy C won. And we can't thank him enough for not only sponsoring our fantasy football league, but for sponsoring our podcast. Big Time Belts, Facebook.com. Holler at your boy. He'll get you hooked up. High quality, low prices.
Good deal. Thank you, Ben.
I need someone to quote me a price for a 10 pounds of silver replica. $280 shipped. Big Time Belts.
Tell them we sent you.
Yeah. Big D, little AVE. First name Pondwater.
First name Pond, middle last name Water.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Ben Jones, congrats on 3,000 subscriptions. Thank you, Ben Jones. And thank every one of y'all that have subscribed to our show.
Appreciate it so much.
We're still trying to plan our 2,000 subscriber episode, and we looked up now, and as we speak, we're at, drum roll, 3,111 subscribers. It took us 2.5 years to get to 1,000. It took us 2.5 weeks to get to 3,100. We can't do it without y'all. We're very appreciative of each and every one of y'all. Uh-oh. Mark Maggard just threw his 10-pounder on the table and said, what do you think?
Ooh.
You should see the Stone Globe. It blows Fondue Figs and Premier out of the water. I would like to see that.
Me too. Hey, Austin.
Hey, Austin. Thanks for joining us.
I love that. You quoted the price, and now Darren wants to know if he can borrow it. That's funny.
I walked into that one.
That's true. That was good. That was good. We got a lot of wrestling coming up this weekend. Are you working this weekend?
Nope.
What are you doing?
Don't have nothing going on this weekend. We'll be in Florence, Mississippi for Lost Art of Wrestling the following weekend. On the 30th.
Okay, cool.
I got a serious subject I want to talk about before we go. I don't normally share GoFundMe's, but this one's important to me. My friend Karen has leukemia. Pictured here with her husband Ricky, who is trying to recover from prostate cancer. He got home from the hospital. The day he came home from the hospital, she got sick and they took her to the hospital and her brain was bleeding. She's diagnosed with leukemia. She was there for 36 days. She's going to have a stem cell. Is it replacement's what I'm trying to say? Her brother was a match.
Transplant.
We're going to do the stem cell transplant. Here's the problem. Ricky's used up all of his time from being out. And he's got to tend to her. She lives too far to go home from the hospital every day. So she's going to have to stay in an apartment there for 60 days. No, for 90 days. I'm sorry, for 90 days.
Yes.
She's going to have 24-hour care. Insurance does not pay for that apartment, and it's $60 a day. Yeah, I'm asking everybody.
Is she going to Anderson, MD Anderson? Is that where she's going? Do you know? I shouldn't.
I don't know.
Throw that out there. Sorry.
She's going somewhere in Dallas. No, she's not going to Houston.
Okay.
Anyway, I wanted to share this. I wanted to ask y'all if you could reach down and help them out. They're going through a tough time. They're great people. Her faith's unshaken. I don't know. I mean, this is one of those stories that makes you wonder why bad things happen to good people. But I've known Karen for almost 50 years. So if you find it in your heart to help them out, I would be much obliged. And I've gone to jumpinthepond.com. I put everything on sale 15% off. Anything we raise this week, any proceeds raised this week, all profits will go to that GoFundMe.
Awesome.
Between now and next Tuesday.
I'm working on it right now, Pondwater.
All right.
Because I think it's always great to help where you can, right?
And I'll put that, and I'm going to put that out on our socials.
Okay. Apparently, I'm sorry. I'm too dumb.
Well, I mean, fingers crossed that this is going to work. I mean,
heck yeah.
Because it was touch and go there for a while. Pondwater Dave, how was it going on Value Independent Wrestling? I wasn't there. It was my wife's birthday weekend. I did not work the show this weekend.
Very smart man.
Well, I don't know though. I skipped the wrestling show because of her birthday, and then I booked us as guests on a pod. We were guests on a podcast that night.
That's different though. I mean, we were only there for a couple hours.
I was under the weather. I couldn't go to the softball tournament because I couldn't go out there. I mean, I could barely function Saturday.
I had a good meal.
She had a really good meal without me. Thank you, Willie.
Well, I mean, you know.
Anyway, so that's what's going on. Next week, we got a big show. The former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, Steve Anthony, will be with us. Steve Anthony's a week out. Will be a week. It'll be a few days out before his dog collar match with Rob Love.
Mm-hmm.
If Steve Anthony wins, Southern Royalty will be no more. If Rob Love wins, Steve Anthony will have to be Rob Love's bitch.
Nice.
So
nice.
Big stakes. Steve's been trying to get his hands on Rob Love for a long time.
I think that's a good one because
Austin wants to know, do you all do a YouTube every Tuesday night live? Yes, sir, we do.
We do.
Occasionally we change the day up, but Tuesday night's our night.
Yes, we'd love to have you join us.
So
that was fun. That was a great show.
It was. Thank you for Lizzy. Thanks, Lizzy Flanagan, thank you very much, Mark Maggard. That's high praise coming from you.
That is.
They do a great job over there on Spanning the Globe. I'm blanking out. I want to thank Lizzy Flanagan. She gave us a lot of her time tonight.
Yes, definitely.
I can't wait to have her back again, talk more about it. I thank her for go ahead and coming on.
I can't wait for the book.
Yeah, I can't either. There's one last look at it before we go.
I think, like she said, she is a true wrestling fan. Like
she's all over the place. She's a great fan. She likes the new stuff. She likes the old stuff.
She was cool to come on and just talk.
Oh, yeah.
We love that.
So join us here next Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out with us and Steve Anthony. I cannot wait to talk about him and talk about all the great things he's done with his career, especially his match against Juicer's Thunder Liger in the Tokyo Dome.
Oh, could you imagine?
I can't wrap my brain around it.
Can't even imagine.
Got so much respect for that guy. I mean, when he gets in the ring, it's talent on loan from God himself. Until next week, I'm Palm Water Dave. She's Amy Vaughn. Y'all have a great week. Thank you for joining us tonight on Talkin' Wrestling with Palm Water and Amy. Good night.